So I recently got my pension after I relocated to Canada. And then I was talking to someone, who also relocated. And the person was like, "Oh, really? How did you get your pension from Nigeria?" And I was like, I thought this was common knowledge. Anyway, that's what is prompting this video. So I'm just going to tell you how I went about getting my pension from Nigeria, even while I was in Canada. So stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. It's your girl Faith. I'm a Nigerian immigrant and HR professional based in Toronto, Canada. And welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, use that subscribe button and please don't leave without subscribing. Anyway, for my returning guests, always a pleasure to have you here. Thank you guys for sticking with me. So, like I said, I'm going to be talking about how I got my pension from Nigeria. Of course, as we all know, relocating to Canada is not easy. It's quite expensive. And even when you get here, you have a lot of bills to pay and things like that. So of course, you need all the money that you can gather. And if you're Nigerian and you were working before you relocated and you were paying pension, wherever you were working, then it means that you will be able to collect a percentage of your pension. So what the policy says is if you've been out of a job for a minimum of 4 months, you're eligible to apply for 25% of your pension. Okay, now of course I know this because I'm in HR and most of the times I was the one even doing some of these letters to like the PFAs and all of that. So maybe that's why I thought it was common knowledge. But hey, you never know. So yeah, the way I went about it is that after I got here, I just sent a mail to my PFA. PFA means Pension Fund Administrator. In my case, I'm just going to mention their names because I think they did an awesome job with the entire process. It was really, really seamless. So I used Stanbic IBTC Pensions, and this is no way an ad, but like I said, I think they really handled everything professionally and it went really well and turnaround time was so fast. So I used Stanbic IBTC Pensions, and what I just did was I sent them an email saying that, look, I've been out of a job for 4 months and I would like to apply for my pension. So, they responded in maybe about a day or so, and they mentioned that, okay, that's fine. And they gave me like a checklist of the documents that I needed to submit. And they gave me like a step-by-step guide as to how to go about submitting my application. So before I go into the list of things that they asked me to submit, I will just touch on a few things that I think that, if you are still back home in Nigeria before you relocate, maybe these are some things that you need to straighten out. It will make your process easier so that, you don't have to struggle whenever you do decide to apply after you relocate to Canada. The first thing I will mention is the NIN, which is the National Identity Number. Now that one, if you're Nigerian, you know how that process can be a little tedious. But the point is, try and do it before you leave. It's not something you can do online. So, and it's part of the requirements for getting this 25% of your pension. So if you don't have your national identity number, maybe you might have to kiss the application goodbye. Just saying. So try and rectify that before you leave. Make sure that you have that done because you need to submit the slip. The next thing I'll talk about is your name. So this one, of course, I'll talk about it again at the end, telling you about some of the challenges that I faced. But this one is pretty much maybe for the ladies. Your name just needs to be consistent wherever, in all your documentation. So your account, your PFA account, your bank account, your NIN, whatever it is. Ladies, it gets complicated when we get married and we use our husband's surnames and then, we have our maiden names in some documents, all of that stuff. Just make sure that you align all of them before you relocate. Because, there are some things, like I said, NIN, you can't do that, from, you can't do that from the abroad. Same with BVN and all of those other ones. So just make sure that you rectify all of that. BVN, of course, make sure, I think we did this years ago, but if that is still in your maiden name or in a different name, just make sure that the names align with whatever you have on your PFA. Now, the third thing I will mention is the exit letter. So it depends on how you left your organization, but either way, whether you left on a good note or on a bad note, the point is the last company that you worked for. If possible, before you travel, get an exit letter from them. And an exit letter is pretty much a letter that says, this person worked here from this period to that period. What the PFAs are concerned about is your exit date. They just want to be sure that, okay, yes, if this person said they left in June 2020, they actually left in June 2020. So if you can get that letter, while you're leaving, of course, they know you're leaving. So it's just a point. It's just about asking, HR to give you that letter. If you can get that quickly, that would really be helpful. It's something you can also get from Canada, while you're already in Canada, but if you can get it before you travel, yeah, that'll be better. The next thing I'll talk about is the data recapture exercise. Now, this is compulsory, I think, regardless of the PFA, because I think it was a directive from PENCOM, which is, the body that regulates pensions in Nigeria. So regardless of whatever PFA you're in, you would have to do this data recapture exercise. It is one of the requirements for getting, your pension, right? And let me just, mention the things that you would require for this data recapture exercise. So you would require an application form. You can do this data recapture exercise online. So what that means is that even while you're in Canada, you can do it. It doesn't really matter. But if you're in Nigeria, you might as well, go to their office, just gather all these documents I'm going to mention and go to their office and get it done. So the application form, then you would have, you would need to provide your birth certificate. You would also need to provide a passport photograph. You would need to provide a proof of address. Now for the proof of address, you can use maybe your driver's license or a utility bill or your bank statement, just something that shows your home address, okay? So any of those documents would work. You also need a means of identification and an NIN slip, like I mentioned, the National Identity Number slip, and then your BVN number. They won't ask for like a BVN, there's no documentation per se, but you just need to know your BVN number and make sure that it is correct. So those are the documents that you need to do the data recapture exercise. So I just wanted to point out some of these things so that if you're still in Nigeria, you can already get them done. The data recapture exercise, you don't necessarily have to wait till you are done, with your job. You can even do it before you resign. It's not a function of, waiting till 4 months time for you to get that done. You can do that at any point in time. But the application for the 25% itself is what you need to wait 4 months for before you go ahead and process it. So let's go back to the application proper. So once you are done, with all of these things and you know that you have this documents that I mentioned, then you're halfway there. So the application itself, what you'll be required to submit is an application form. Now this form would, you would need to put in details like your BVN number, you need to put in your account details. So just make sure that you have all of those handy. The other thing, of course, that you need to do is the data recapture exercise. So it's a prerequisite. So I'm just going to leave it on this list, but yeah, that's why I decided to mention it earlier. It's something you need to do. You would also provide the exit letter that I mentioned from your last employer, and you would also provide a means of identification. So it's really straightforward. The application itself is really straightforward. As long as, you have everything sorted in terms of crossing your I's and dotting your T's, is pretty straightforward to get. So after I submitted all of those documents, I submitted them online, and in the next, I think it was just about 2 weeks or so, because they had told me that it would take, about 2 weeks. So just about 2 weeks and maybe a day or two, I just, saw bang bang on my phone. I pretty much just saw the alert for, the 25% of my pension. So it was really straightforward. It was a seamless process, which is why, like I said, I'm mentioning Stanbic IBTC in this video, because I think that, they did a good job. And, whatever PFAs you find yourself, just make sure that you follow the processes. Most of them, if you go to their website, you'll probably see the steps to getting this on their website. So you don't necessarily have to like send an email. You just need to check the website and you'll be able to see all the documents that you need. So you can already start collating them. But I always advise that you do this before you relocate, because like I said, there are things that you cannot rectify once you get here. That NIN is definitely one of the headaches. And if you don't sort it out before you travel, then it might be, you know, a stumbling block to you getting this amount of money, okay? So now that I've walked through the entire process, I will just tell you some of the mistakes that I made or some of the roadblocks that I hit, which I think, you know, you should avoid. These ones were not the PFA's issue. They were self-inflicted roadblocks, okay? Now, the first thing is name. The name. My name was all over the place, okay? I had like, I mean, and you know how the pension goes, right? Because most times when you register your pension, it's usually at your first job. So in my case, it was like years ago, so I didn't even remember so many things. I wasn't even, you know, but of course I knew it was my maiden name that was there. So, you know, I had moved on, I had gotten married, I had changed my name. So my names were all over the place. My BVN had one name, my NIN had another. So I just had to make sure that all of those things were in the same place. You know, just make sure that all of them were aligned and try to, you know, correct my name. So if you don't have that problem, of course, most times the guys don't really have this problem, right? So if you don't have that problem, then you might not face any, you might not have any challenges with getting that. The other thing is your email address. So when I had sent the first email, I used my current email address. And then the lady who responded from Stanbic IBTC had said, oh, you know, we don't have this email address in the system. You know, can you use your, the accurate email address? Because of course they want to be sure that is the owner of the account that is sending them the email. So I went back, I used the email that I thought, you know, of course, because I've only had 2 email addresses in terms of my personal email addresses. So I used that one again. And then they said the same thing, that this is not the email address they have on their record. But at that point, I now knew that there was a problem. So I had to think back, and then I realized that when I was, you know, opening the account, for some reason, well, I mean, I was naive or whatever. At that point when I was opening the account, I had used the company email address. So funny, right? Because like, why would you do that? Because, you know, you're not going to be there forever. Anyway, so that was what happened in my case. So I'm just saying all of this so that you can, you know, be mindful. If you already fall into this category, try and rectify some of these things. So yeah, I had those problems. So there was a lot of back and forth. And then I had to fill out a form, because when I told them that, look, I no longer work in that company, so obviously that email address is no longer functional. I had to fill out a form to change my email address from that previous one to the current one. So, you know, that created a lot of, you know, back and forth and just, you know, filling out forms and sending it forward, things like that. So if you don't have any of those issues, then you probably, you know, will not, you know, you probably will be fine. Then the other thing, this one, I'm not proud of it. In fact, I should cover my face. My signature. So I'm usually, I don't know, for the life of me, I've never just been able to sign properly and consistently, more like. My signature is usually all over the place. In fact, you know, just, you know, I digress, but there was a time I misplaced my ATM card, you know, back in Nigeria. And then, you know, my husband was like, oh, you know, just go and get a new one from the bank. Just tell them. For the life of me, I was scared. I was nervous. I left it for a couple of days. In fact, I was managing myself for like a week or so till I couldn't live without my ATM card, and I just had to go. And I was only scared and nervous because every time I go to the bank and then I have to sign a document, the next thing I will hear is, I'm sorry, ma, this is not the signature that we have on file. Please, could you sign again? And then, you know, I start to sweat, you know, because I just know that it's coming. So I usually avoid anything that has to do with, like, you know, signing documents. It's strange, right? I mean, HR, I should sign documents a lot. But yeah, anyway, but for some reason, I never usually get it right. So please make sure that your signature is consistent. Because the first time I sent my form, they had sent it back saying, the signature was not consistent. So I had to like go to my bank, you know, to get them to do like a confirmation of signature or something like that. It was a particular letter that I had to get from my bank. I mean, it was just, again, another back and forth. Not the fault of the PFA, but my fault because I couldn't sign properly. So I'm just saying all of this so that you know the sort of roadblocks that I hit, so that you can avoid them in case you fall on that same category. So guys, that is pretty much it. It's really straightforward. If you are new to Canada and you need some money and you have some money, your pension, please, if you want to go ahead with it, go ahead with it. It's your legal right to collect 25% of your pension if you are out of work for a minimum of 4 months. So please go ahead and do it. Just make sure, like I said, all the things I mentioned, dot your I's, cross your T's, have all your documentation right, and the process is really, really straightforward. If you found this video informative, please leave me a thumbs up and also subscribe to my channel, and please share with others. Like I said, I thought it was common knowledge, but apparently it isn't. So please share with other folks who might need this. And as usual, I'll see you guys on my next video.